You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Welcome back to the Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about jiu-jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a second-degree black belt who runs Asylum Fight Team White Rhino BJJ, located in Lexington, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Dunlap.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
What's going on, sir?
Not much. Life changes. The same things go on every day. Work, training, just the typical days.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Work and train and take care of the family, right?
Exactly.
All right, well, let's get the ball rolling. If you want to formally introduce yourself again, by all means, and let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
My name is Phil Dunlap. I run a small school in Lexington, Virginia, Asylum Fight Team White Rhino, BJJ, and I'm a lifelong martial artist that started out in the Burmese martial arts. I fought kickboxing, mixed martial arts for years, and did a lot of grappling matches in the early 90s. And basically, I have 119 professional fights between kickboxing and MMA. And I can't even tell you how many grappling matches I have. I came back I had a bout with cancer, and at 53, I came back and was able to start training again, start competing again, and I have over 250 matches since turning 53, and I'm 61 now. So I'm just one of those hardcore junkies. I love it.
Man, so how'd you get started in jiu-jitsu?
Well, I originally did a Burmese martial art that had a grappling component called the Ba, and it was similar to and this was back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I was doing this, and then basically it's a form of grappling that allows open palm strikes when you're on the ground, not unlike early days pancrase or now with the combat jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there was a different component to it, and I kind of got into jiu-jitsu because I was, compete, in other words, in the New York area where I lived, and when I started to compete in grappling, when it started to blow up in the 90s with NAGA, Grappler's Quest, all of those floating around in the Northeast, I started to do those, and it's one of those things where you compete against something. Like if all you're competing against is in the New York area, you start to get a feel for Sambo. You start to get a feel for jiu-jitsu. So in other words, the idea was just a natural evolution. You got to get good at the things you're competing against. So I was probably like one of the longest living white belts, got ranked up to black belt by Ricardo Cavalcante while I was out in Vegas. And it's just like I'm not a big belt guy. I do give belts. I tend to be really stingy with them. And, it's not one of those things. I don't run a commercial school. I have my own business, so I teach during my free time. And for me, it's about having fun. So, in other words, to me, I'm not giving a stripe. I don't do striped, and I'm not giving a stripe every few months, for attendance purposes. For me, it's about, you get a blue belt when you're able to compete at blue belt and hold your own. We get a purple. To me, it's more of your ability to perform on the mat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense. I guess it is different from, when it comes to like largest, like commercial schools or versus like the smaller schools where like you don't get participation points for just showing up.
Well, I understand. I understand that because, in other words, a lot of times if you have a big school, you're running a balancing act because almost any big school is also going to have their competitors, okay, and those are the guys putting in the hard work, and then you have come on. Like even myself now, I consider myself a weekend warrior. I still go out and compete, but like I'm an old guy playing at the string. I'm not a serious athlete anymore, and it's one of those things that they're doing a balancing act, and it's a balancing act that's really hard to actually make a living in the martial arts while retaining the quality level that you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So so you say you currently you still compete now?
Yeah, actually, I'm doing the world. Hold on a second. Let me. It's over here. World Championship Grappling. There is a super fight card up in Sturbridge, Massachusetts.
Hmm.
I'm doing that on the 27th.
Wow.
And then
You,
I'm planning, I like to do the IBJJF Nationals because I lived in Vegas for a long time, and it was one of the first BJJ tournaments I did. It's the first one I did in the gi, and it's kind of like, how do I phrase it? Yeah, it's like I view it as my tournament.
hmm
For some reason, it's just the IBJJF Nationals because I've done so well in it, even in the gi. I've like, that's my tournament. I got to do that every year.
Wow, that's amazing that you still compete like that.
I try to get out there as much as my body and my health holds up. Like, in other words, like last year was a tough year because I actually had a tumor. I had to have my salivary gland and a tumor removed in June, and then I tried to do the nationals in late July, and I did well, but I won my division, but I grappled like shit, or at least in my opinion. And then I competed again in November and got hurt. So it was kind of like it was just one of those like years. Get rid of that year. Let's forget that ever happened. And then you just hit the new year. You regroup. You try to get your body back to normal, and you go out there and you see what you got left in the tank. But one of the things I will tell you is, for me now, I was written off from cancer, so it's kind of like the idea. Everything I do now is something I didn't even have a right to do. Okay,
Yeah.
it's in the bonus. And when you look at it in your life, you really only have three things. You have your family, you have the lives you impact, the people that in life that you touch, that you help, and your memories. So I'm out there just trying to compete, get more memories. Okay, and
Hmm.
I'm having more fun competing now than I ever have. In other words, win, lose, draw, screw it. I'm just having a blast. Of course, I want to win. Like, I don't play checkers to lose. I want to
You're
win.
right.
Okay, but it's not the end of the world. I'm 61 years old. I shouldn't even be out there.
Right. Well, that's amazing though.
It's what we do what we love to do when we grow up. In other words, we all have that like inner kid, and most of us still have it. It's still in there somewhere. Okay, and then what happens is, we grow up, we get responsibilities, and somehow it gets put away.
Yeah.
Getting a new car, getting a nicer house, this, that, the other thing starts to become more important than the inner kid. And then when you almost die, you kind of realize that I love doing this is enough of a reason to do it. When you're looking at limited time, I didn't sit there and say, I wish I had another nice car. I wish
Hmm.
my house had a bigger master bath. Okay. I thought there and I wish I'd done more. I wish I did this. I wish I did that. So my whole thing is I'm just going to go out there. Like, I started water skiing again, windsurfing, all the stuff I used to do when I was young that I loved.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like, why did I give it up? I'm actually in a position where I'm able to afford to do it whenever I want to. I'm able to do that. So it's kind of, why did I stop? It's almost like
Right.
you slap yourself and you say, you moron. You loved it for a reason.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, I guess that's on the unfortunate part of growing up. You just kind of like you have this mindset of everything that you want to do, and then you say, just responsibilities start just coming at you every which way, and then you sit back and it's like, man, I done forgot so much stuff about myself that I wish I haven't. So.
Certain things give you perspective. And one of the things I've noticed recently is because I have two stepsons in their 20s. And one of the things I really thought to myself watching them, how sure I was I had all the answers at 20 years old and I could change the world.
Hmm.
Then, yeah, I hit around 35 and I was realizing I ain't changing shit. Okay. In other words, I'm just trying to make it upstream. Then by the time you start to be 50, you start to realize I'm just trying to survive this endeavor
Right.
in the best way possible. So it's kind of like, life has a tendency of putting things in perspective. When you look back, like, when you start to look back and you start to feel a regret, say to yourself, look, I talk to people all the time. I see guys coming in their 40s. I always wanted to do this. Come by, do it. You're never too old to do something you love.
Yeah. As they say, the best time to plant a tree was 1,000 years ago. The second best times is
It's
now.
today.
It's today.
Yep. Everybody leaves everything for tomorrow. I'm going to, and I'm going to never happens when I get around to it.
Never.
Okay, so it's kind of like go out there today. If you're gonna start, if you're gonna start working out, if you're gonna start eating right, do it today. Don't put it off till next Monday because you're setting a pattern of Monday after Monday after Monday. It never comes.
Yeah, Monday never comes.
Exactly. So I tell people, you really have to realize it's your life. You're the captain of the friggin' boat. Okay, like I always tell people, I'm bad in that I have a code that's a little bit off of the society's. And I'm not saying like a bad code, like I want to run around like committing homicides or something like that. But what I'm saying is I'm like an outlier on thought process a lot of times because I came up hard. I grew up in the Bronx. Okay, I spent a lot of time overseas in third world countries, so I've seen a lot of things. And like I tell people, it's you. The choice is yours. Okay, if I'm going to follow my code, I'd rather go out on my shield on my code than do it on yours. Okay,
Yeah.
because I call it the mirror principle. I'm never going to do anything that if I wake up in the morning the next morning, I'm going to want to slit my throat instead of shave. So I try to keep my life simple. Is this a good idea? Is it the right thing to do? Same thing with jujitsu. The day I stop enjoying it is the day I stop competing. Like if I go
Yeah.
someplace and anytime I've gone someplace and like there was one time when I first got out here, I went down to Virginia Beach for a tournament. And I woke up in the morning, my body felt like hell. The hotel I stayed in was a dive. And I'm like, this time it's not fun. So I decided I'd do a couple more times and see. The other times are perfect. So
Hmm.
every once in a while you have a bad one and you got to decide, have I stopped enjoying this? And is it time to move on? Try another. It wasn't, so I'm going to keep going. So like I'm one of those people that you're in charge. Okay. Take a risk, apply for that job. Okay, join jujitsu, join kickboxing, go to the gym, change your diet. Your life is yours. Live it on
Yeah.
your terms. That's what I say with jujitsu. I tell my students all the time, I don't want you to be a mini me. You're going to have a lot of my stylistic. Like I'm a big pressure guy. I like the butterfly from the guard. And like I tell people, you're not going to be a mini me. You're going to have a pressure game. Okay, because you train with a guy who's a pressure guy. Okay, but I want you to develop your own game. Okay, like to me, what I do, and please, this is just labeling. Okay, I'm not dismissing jujitsu or anything. I do Phil Jitsu. Okay, Master Cavalcante does Hikardo Jitsu. Okay, when you train enough and you spend your life at it, suddenly it becomes you're doing what you do. It
Hmm.
follows the framework of jujitsu. But the ultimate goal is to be able to do the techniques that aren't even in your arsenal. Like I have my A game, my B game, my C game. Okay. The techniques that aren't in your arsenal, you want to be good enough at them if you're a teacher to teach.
Right.
Okay. But they're never going to change to be part of your arsenal. I'm never going to be one of those guys that hunts underneath you for that slick armbar, for the triangle. I'm more sit up for Kimura, scramble back to my feet, get on top guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, especially as I've gotten older, your game adapts as you age. When I
Hmm.
was younger, I won my first title in Burma at I'm 6'1". I was 147. Okay, then at what was it, 21, I won a title at 63. Then I did open weight 170, but my walking around weight between basically 24 and maybe 44 was about 175, 180. That was my walking around weight. Never was heavier than that. Okay. And then I was a speed merchant. Like, I was fast. Okay. And
Hmm.
in other words, that's not bragging. That's input from other people. I was fast. Now I hit reasonably hard and everything like that. But like people would always comment on my quickness. Okay. Then all of a sudden now, as I've gotten older, I'm a fat old man. I'm going to lay my ass on top of you and make you carry me. School, I always joke around. The rule of the school number one is don't let the fat old guy on top. Okay, so the idea is, it's kind of you start to adapt your game to your age, but you also as a teacher, you have a responsibility. I kind of look at teaching anything or coaching anything. I heard a description years ago of what a diamond cutter does, and I actually found it interesting in the context of applying it to teaching. You got a diamond, and they say like a real good diamond cutter will see the natural beauty of that diamond and cut off the excess and bring it out. Where a bad diamond cutter will make the diamond he wants. Every one of his diamonds will look similar. Okay, whereas they say a really high level diamond cutter, each diamond comes out almost with its own individual beauty. And I always say a high level coach will adapt what he's teaching to your attributes, to your personality. Let's say you're a mixed martial arts fighter. Some of us have you hit me, I bite down on my mouthpiece, I want to commit homicide. Then some guys, I want to win the fight, but I don't want to hurt the guy. Okay, you can't change that. You can't change an athlete who fights into a fighter who happens to participate in an athletic sport. Like I always said, the Diaz brothers, they're fighters. Parking lot, hallway, elevator, cage, doesn't make it
anywhere.
Okay, then there's George St. Pierre. He's an athlete. He fights one place in the cage for money. Okay, so it's kind of like, and neither's right, neither's wrong, neither's better, neither is worse. They're both. That's who you are. Like I'm a striker by nature. In other words, like if I'm ever in a fight and I'm putting a submission on you, it means I'm being kind. I've always been sit up, rain down elbows. Okay, I've always loved striking. I've always been more in tune with striking. Not that I don't love grappling. It's just that for me, striking was always like the minute agitation gets involved, I'd rather hit.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's a very, very fine way to look at it. Especially when it comes to jujitsu, being an instructor, about being able to adapt to your students and how they learn, and how you learn yourself. And
I actually get far more out of teaching than
really,
I ever got trying to learn. Okay, because teaching really, okay, now at a certain point, and you'll probably see it in your gym. You've got some guys that are really great at helping you. Okay, because they struggled through your level. In other words, like they're able to a lot of times break down in specific detail because they remember they had to do it.
Yeah.
Then you have other guys that have trained so long and it's kind of like, yeah, just do this. You can't learn when somebody goes, just do this. Like every once in a while, I'll pick up a little nuance. Now, I've been teaching now for 30 years. Okay, every once in a while, and I've run a fight team for like 30 years. So every once in a while, I'll sit there and it'll be a nuance of a technique. And I had this in class about 2 months ago where I'm like, you friggin' moron. In all this time, you never pointed out what you were doing. I didn't even realize I didn't realize on a certain move, I was pinching both my heels together. Okay, I thought I was turning my toes out. It's a butterfly variation. Okay, but when I use it, I'm actually stapling my heels together, like hard. And I thought to myself, and the minute I showed that to everybody had the move. And I'm thinking to myself, you moron, you've been fucking people up for years. So sometimes you actually learn more about a technique by having to take the mental time to break it down into all the check marks.
Yeah.
Okay, like how do you lock the leg down? Okay, now how do you twist the leg to get the full control for the sweep? Okay, so a lot of times if you need to go back and say to yourself, oh, I do that. Sometimes for you don't even realize you do it anymore because it's part of your game.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, teaching actually helps, words, at least in my case, it's really helped me grow as a technician. And one of the real benefits of it as you get older, okay, I can tell you the attributes that disappear fastest: speed, flexibility. The last thing to go is strength. Okay, so it's kind of like, you're going to lose attributes and you're going to have to compensate for it and start to learn to use what you have left to your advantage. Okay, so it's going to be actions start to play a lot slower, more controlled game as you get older.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like to. Well, no, I do like to play a little fast. When we do Nogi, I like to play a little quick. But sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go slow. I'm tired, body hurt. I'm gonna just let you do all the work.
Funny thing is, when I go back and I think about events, the ones that I get upset with myself about, I'm going to say upset with, momentarily upset when I see a video, okay, is because I decided in the middle of a match, and I'm usually ahead on points, and I'm really, this is going to be, I say this all the time, and hopefully nobody listening gets offended, okay, but winning a decision is like kissing your sister, okay. First of all, yes, technically it's a girl, but it's your sister. It doesn't count. So I would rather a lot of times lose by submission and win by decision. Now, if you want to hear the second part, this is the part that always throws people. If you celebrate the decision afterwards, you went for the full tongue kiss. Okay, so it's kind of like, I'm sorry, I see guys jumping up and down, winning at points, 2-0. And it's kind of like, okay, I fell asleep watching the match and you're jumping up and down. It's kind of like you took him down, got 2 points, and held him in guard for 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I was hoping for submission.
Right.
I warned you beforehand. I don't have a filter.
Now that's a very unique way to look at that.
There was an event 2 weekends ago that during the rules meeting I came out with that because we were trying to encourage the guys to go for submissions. So it was kind of like the whole room was like. I stand out in Virginia. I kind of stand. I grew up in the Bronx. I lived most of my life in the New York area. Moved to Vegas for 10 years. Then came here, and it's kind of like sometimes the things I say, just like people are like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, that's like I said, that's definitely a new one. Definitely a new one.
Yeah, but I always felt that if it's submission grappling, you're trying to submit the guy.
Yeah.
Especially if you're up like 8-0 on points, you got 2 choices. You can sit there and do nothing and hold on. Or you could try to force it. I'd rather force the submission. Okay. Because between you and I win 12-0. Okay. I won. I sat on top of you. I swept you, whatever. Okay. But if I submit you or you submit me, one of us said uncle. It's kind of like, hey, you would, and I always joke around, like, people, I remember I had one guy I was doing a super fight in Phoenix, and before the match, like, he'd never gone, like between you and I, like I've been competing for years. So it's like I've done submission underground, fight to win, shows like that. So this guy was a little bit nervous. And he says, I've never rolled with somebody that had so many matches before. And I said, listen, it's not a fight. He's a guy that didn't have a tremendous competitive background. I think he had maybe 15, 20 grappling matches. He didn't have like fights. Okay. So like I looked at him and I was trying to make him more at ease. I said, listen, basically, when we're doing submission grappling, it boils down to we're doing aggressive cuddling. We're going to roll around and hug each other. And one of us at some point may reach out and tap the mat and say, man, this is too much loving. Too much loving. I gotta give up. Okay, so think to yourself, listen, and it's always like, people talk about their grappling matches as fights. Yeah, you want to call them fights, call them fights. I'm not gonna get all hurt about it. But for me, it's not really like I play grappling. I can't play fight.
Yeah.
Like I can go out for a grappling match with a big smile on my face, hug you beforehand, shake your hands. The hell, half the times I'll hang out with my opponents beforehand. We'll be busting each other's chops. I want to have a good time. And I don't need for grappling. I don't need to manufacture some artificial. He the bad guy. I got to hurt him. I got to beat him up. Okay, I love at a grappling match when somebody mean mugs you. Like I got this one kid. I remember him in Vegas. He's mean mugging me during the weigh-ins, and I'm looking at him and I'm going, You want to hit me, huh? Yeah, you want to hit me. Okay. And he's doing these funny things. And I go, come on, just do it. Just hit me. And then he goes, stop it. I'm trying to look tough. And it's just funny. I can't take it all seriously. It's a grappling match. And not, I don't want to diminish his, in other words, like Gordon Ryan is like the man when it comes to grappling. I don't want to diminish any grappling accomplishments, but to me, it just doesn't have the same feel as a fight.
Right.
Because no matter how bad I get beat up, my eye's not swollen shut. I don't have a gash here. My ear's not hanging off. Okay, I'm not missing. Like I've had my two front teeth broken in by a headbutt in a Burmese boxing match. It's kind of like I broke a guy's femur one time in a Burmese, but that's fucked up. That's hardcore.
Yeah.
Okay, grappling. You can tap easier.
Mm-hmm. And everybody can go home happy.
Exactly. Like I always joke around at 60 years old, you go out for a grappling match. And I got 3 goals. Number 1, no new injuries, please. Okay. I need shoulder replacement, knee reconstruction, and ankle surgery. I don't need something else. Okay. Number 2, don't want to hurt you. If I catch you, just tap. Okay. I really
Just
don't want to be popping your elbow. You got to go to work tomorrow. Step number 3, I'd really like to win. Okay, but the win doesn't feel as good. The win definitely doesn't feel as good if I get hurt. Like if my shoulder's hanging out of socket and I win, it's just not the same as when it's not. Okay, and it's not as much fun if you're sitting there holding your elbow or your knee, because I did a heel hook, and I win, but I'm still like I had a kid. I didn't break his foot. There was a loud snapping noise and he had a hard time getting up. It was a show in Vegas not that long ago. And I dropped back. He dropped back for a heel hook. I dropped back for a straight foot lock. I hit the foot lock on the way down. And I say, every once in a while you get that bite. Like you get a guillotine and this motherfucker's going to sleep in a second.
Yeah, it's going.
I had that foot, and as I fell back, he'd fallen back first, but as I'm falling back, I can feel the pressure and a loud pop, and he taps. I'm like, oh, fuck. And I still remember standing over him, helping him up, saying, oh, fuck, I didn't want to win this way.
Right.
Okay, because you change as you get older. Empathy comes on. You've seen too much bullshit. Life's too short,
Yeah. And I tell everybody that come visit my school, or if I'm talking to anybody, I'm like, dude, we don't roll to win in practice. We're doing this because we love it. And like you said, we all gotta go to work tomorrow. I can't pay none of your bills.
I always tell people, if you're trying to win in practice, you're not getting better. You're competing. Okay. The idea is to work things you're uncomfortable with and get better. If you're not tapping in practice, you're not training right. Either that or you're in a room you absolutely don't belong in. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, like me, if I'm rolling around in a room full of teenagers, let's say 10 to 12, and I'm in there grappling with him and winning, decide I should be in a different room. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like, but if you're in a room where even if you're one of the best guys, you should be working things every time you roll. Unless you're getting ready specifically for a competition and you're winding down to implement your A game, then you're torturing people. Mm-hmm. Okay, but other than that, you should always be okay. I'm gonna work my back escapes today. I'm gonna work my half butterfly. I'm gonna work there. I always try to go in with an idea of I'm gonna play with this today. I'm gonna play with this motion. I'm gonna see where it leads. Okay, and it's kind of like it keeps your brain working. It keeps you learning. And I always tell people that. And this is something with beginners. Beginners tend to, it's almost like they count. There's stages people go through. A lot of times beginners come in, and when I say some of them are, you're like, dude, you're going to break your own elbow if I don't let go of it. Okay. But, sometimes you can't get through to them, and you choke the crap out of them until they realize that they have to tap. They wake up a couple times. Okay. And it's like, oh, okay, that's why they want me to tap. My arm could break. I didn't realize I was going to sleep. Okay. Yeah. So in other words, as a teacher, sometimes you have to be patient. You have to break them in that, because they don't mean it a lot of times as a newbie. They're panicked. Mm-hmm. Remember, you're choking them.
Mm-hmm.
In their minds, that's death.
Yeah.
You know, the average guy coming into jiu-jitsu, he hears choke, you're trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Okay, so you gotta anticipate that, and then I always call it at some point in your development, usually around the time you might get your blue or a little bit after your blue, you dive into the bunker with the better guys.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, okay, let's say I'm rolling with you, start from my guard, and last time I submitted you in 2.4 seconds. Okay, now you're going to last. 2.4 minutes. Now you're going to last 3 minutes. And you get in my guard and you do everything you can to hold on for 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You just wasted a roll with a better guy. The goal of grappling is not to hold on for 3 minutes. You should have worked your passes. You should have worked something. You should always be working something. If you're working your passes and you get submitted when you pass 50 times, but you get 45 passes, you're starting to improve. Whereas if you sat in the guard the whole time and didn't try to pass, you just wasted the training time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not trying to do something, you're just wasting time.
Right.
It's kind of like, yeah, when you go to the gym and you see these guys sitting there texting, that's not working out. The time I went to the gym for 3 hours, and 2 hours if it was spent on your cell phone. Okay, so it's kind of like, yeah, hey, dude, you could have been in and out in an hour. You didn't work out for 3 hours. I'm sorry. Okay, but people do that. They get things in their head, and I always tell people that, like, whether it's fighting, life in general, your brain is the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't need like a bunch of college degrees, but what you need is you need a certain vision of where you want to go and a reasonable game plan to get there, and the dedication to follow the game plan. And if the game plan is not working, you don't give up. You look at the game plan, you look for flaws. Is it me? Am I not doing something right? Or is my game plan off and I have to make adjustments?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whether it's like I always tell my guys at certain stages, like I'm always one of those guys. Come up to me, and it's like I'm not your typical. When I run a school, I'm Coach or Phil. I hate titles. You want to make me like, call me professor. I can't stand that. And it's not that I can't stand that people do it. It just feels so not me. I come from a martial art background where there were no titles. In the Burmese arts, there were no titles. You either were master, you taught, you were a fighter, or you trained. There were 4 levels. And they were levels kind of like in a room. Like if you took all the belts off and you watch rolling after class, you know who the best, you can usually list the 5 best guys in class in order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Proof is in the pudding. Okay. And that's what I always say. In other words, you should not focus on where you want to go. You should focus on the process of getting there, the steps it takes. Okay.
Yeah.
Figure out, like, like I take a look at guys when they're rolling. Okay. And especially like new guys. You see one guy sit up for a guillotine all the time. Arm is around the neck all day long. But he never quite gets the guillotine. Now it's time to drill the fucking guillotine with him until his brain explodes. Because he's going to have a great guillotine because he finds his arm there in every situation. Have you ever rolled with a guy that, let's say, no matter where you are, he's going for Kimura? And the screwed up thing about it is he's locked on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so somebody somewhere in his development made him realize, okay, I always seem to be near the Kimura. I might as well turn the Kimura into a game.
Yeah, that would be me.
Perfect.
That would be me.
I was always, between you and I, the reason I bring up the Kimura is I used to call it the sit across. Mm-hmm. That was a Burmese name for it. But I have a little different variation that I like better, but the Kimura is great. But it's I see, no matter where I am. I've actually in competition had a guy in my back in Kimura. Okay, and it's kind of like, I don't know why, standing up, I get Kimuras on people. Okay, on the ground, like back, and no matter where I am, like, I use a Kimura half the times to escape side.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, so it's kind of like, we all have those moves where it's like, Why is my arm always there?
Yeah.
So the idea is to get people to recognize that in themselves. Like if you see a guy whose leg is always, get one of these long lanky guys who he's always going for a triangle, but he never gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Take him for like a month, and when he comes in, coach, what are we doing today? You're doing a triangle. Coach, what are we doing today? You're doing can't we do it something else? No, until you triangle everybody in class, you're doing a triangle. Then all of a sudden, I had a guy in New Jersey like that. Never hit a triangle, but was always there.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, it got to the point where guys would wait for him to go to the triangle and use it to pass. Now he's 6'4". So finally I'm sitting there with him after he competed, because he would never listen at this point. Okay, because everybody knows better. It's kind of like, yeah, coach, but that's not why. Okay. I'm not watching. You're not paying me money to coach you or anything, but it's kind of like, I listen to the head. It's like, okay. Then we're sitting there one day. He goes, what am I doing wrong? And I said, okay, you're 6'4". You do realize your opponents can't open and he was like 170 pounds. So he was always like 4 inches taller than everybody in the division.
Yeah.
Your opponents can't open your legs until you decide to let them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, guys have a hard time opening my guard. I only seem to get past when I'm going for a submission. I said, so what does that tell you? Oh no. Make them fight to open your guard. Fight. Okay. And then pick a movement to let them open the guard with and use that to set your triangle up. So we went over it. We drilled it for about a month. He won his next 6 matches by triangle. He became a triangle machine. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly it was kind of funny. He'd never worked. He won one match with a triangle. The other guy was inside. He kicked his leg, those long legs flew up. Boom. He's in the triangle. The guy's in the triangle, like Liam McGeary caught Tito Ortiz in their fight. That triangle from the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. So he hits that, and it's kind of like he comes over to me later and he goes like, I can't believe I got that. I don't even know that. Yeah, but triangles, when your legs are in the position,
the mechanics.
You know what to do now. And I always told people that's the point to the game. If you're a Kimura guy, okay, I'm sitting up. What am I doing to break him down all the time? Okay, I'm pinching my elbow to my rib cage and twisting. Boom, boom, boom. Now you've got full control of the shoulder girdle. Mm-hmm. Once you have control of the shoulder girdle, you can use that to go after other things. So I always tell people, pick what you're good at and develop your game in that direction.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I always say, like, in other words, I would want you, if you were one of my guys, I would want you doing Lamar Jitsu. Okay. In other words, not Phil Jitsu. Okay. In other words, I got to be older and slower than you. So do you want to be older and slower, or use the attributes you still have? And I'm a big one on, in other words, okay, there are stud athletes. Mm-hmm. Okay, and like I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, and I'm sorry in advance.
No, you're good. You're good.
But life isn't fair. Okay, I don't know where people got this idea that life was fair. Okay, if life was fair, we'd all have jiu-jitsu black belts. There'd be no ranking structure in a class. Okay, I'm sorry, life isn't fair. Some guys are born ugly. Some guys are born handsome. Some are born dumb as a bag of rocks, and some are geniuses. Okay, life is a crapshoot from the day you come into the world. Some people grow up in great families. Some people grow up with wolves. Okay, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
The idea is, technique is supposed to compensate for attributes. Mm-hmm. Okay, but not replace attributes. Okay, if you're struggling with the technique when I'm in a competition, there's been a number of times where my takedown game is the weakness of my personal game, because when I was younger, I would never take somebody down. If you took me down, we'd spend time on the ground. Okay, because I could grapple, but I wanted to hit you, so I wasn't taking you down. I don't want to stick my elbow and my knee in your face. I don't want to twist your arm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it was kind of like my takedown defense is real good, but I never really, until I started doing a lot of competitive grappling, wanted to take people down. Now I've worked my takedown game a little bit, but between you and I, as an old guy, takedowns are always going to be a tough part of the game because that's when you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea is I have a tendency to concede the takedown and strategically, implement my game. But like a lot of times with the takedown, I'll go for a technique and miss the technique. And let's say it's in an open division. I usually have a tendency when I do a tournament, I do my weight class in the open. Absolutely. Okay, and it's kind of like, oh, my daddy's bigger than your daddy. You're going for a ride. Okay, it's kind of like, yeah, I had one guy one time ask me, what takedown was that? Because he hit the ground so hard. And I said, that was my daddy bigger than your daddy. And I was using every ounce of it. I just, hey, listen, in other words, I always get a kick out of that sometimes in jiu-jitsu where they tell the guy who's insanely strong not to use any strength. Has anybody ever told you not to use speed?
Never. Never.
Has anybody ever told you not to use your flexibility? If you, like rubber guard, if I can sit there and pull my foot over your head and then choke you out with my foot, hey, if I can do a go-go platter, by all means.
By all means.
I'm not going to tell you, don't use that flexibility. It's no good. I still don't understand why strength is no good. And I always get a kick out of the offhanded compliment. Oh, Dan, you're so strong. Dude, you're laying there breathing hard. I just rolled with 3 people and I'm not breathing hard. I wasn't using strength
at all.
So it's kind of like, I always get a kick out of people that want to take the attributes away. But when you look at the top tier athletes, okay, now Gordon Ryan, one of the things I actually admire about Gordon Ryan is I don't like the whole shtick with the king and that stuff. Like, that's just not me. I'm old school. But the honesty about steroids.
Yeah.
Okay, because like he says, he can't spend enough time on the mat uninjured without help. Okay, I'm not saying because it's a good plan, because I think he's actually starting to reap the negatives of it, like with health issues. Okay, but that's just my opinion. I'm not speaking of any factual evidence, just kind of by what he said in interviews and everything like that. But in other words, it is true. The more time on the mat you spend, the better you get. Now, a lot of people look at his matches and they say, oh, if it wasn't for the steroids. No. The steroids just allowed him to stay on the mat more. Because I got to be honest with you, that guy ain't using a lot of strength. And one of the things I love about watching him is, I heard an interview with somebody he competed against. I forget who it was. And the guy's competed against him like 3 times. And the guy actually said, now we're talking the highest level black belts in the world. We're not talking, Joe Hack from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, climbing on a mat and getting schooled. We're talking the best guys in the world are telling you, dude, he's doing a different thing than we are.
Yeah.
Okay. He seems to be performing right now at a whole nother level, but I see nothing in his game that tells me that the steroids did it. Like if he was picking guys up and throwing them over the cage or over the mat, off the mat, I'd be like, okay, yeah, full roid rage going on there. Okay, but he fights so tight and incrementally and so fluidly. That ain't a strength game.
It's not.
He's kind of like I'm just not one of those ones. I'm not a big fan of performance enhancing drugs, but I'm also one that understands the side effects. Many times, like, a lot of these guys that use them have short careers because of the joint damage that comes from it. Okay, the health effects. So it's kind of like, you make that decision. That's your decision. It's your life. I'm a big one on like, hey, listen, you want to smoke weed. You want to dress like a woman. You want me to call you Sally? Hey, cool. Just leave me out of it. Okay, I want to do my thing. You do your thing. Okay, if it's kind of like I see the mat. I see it benefiting him because of the extra mat time, not from he just happens to look really good because that's one of the side effects of what he's doing.
Yeah, we had that conversation before about Gordon Ryan. Like, you can say, if he was on whatever steroid, that does not take away from his technique.
Yeah, exactly. And like, people think it's a magic pill. You still have to look at these bodybuilders. And I'm not a bodybuilder, and like, I've always been somebody who, when I strength train, I do as sport specific. It's to be a better fighter. Okay, like I don't care if I have a peak on my bicep. I don't care if like at this age of the game, I tend to be very lean because I'm a vegan. But it's one of those things that I'm about 215 to 220. But now I don't have. I used to all my life when I was down around 185 or 180. I used to. I ate mostly a fruit based diet, but because of damage to my pancreas, I eat mostly nuts now. But the idea is I've gotten a lot bigger and a lot stronger. But like when I take my shirt off now, I joke around I have a keg. No, I don't have a six pack anymore. It's a keg. But that doesn't bother me because I'm not doing it to look good.
Right.
Okay. And like even these bodybuilders, when you see these bodybuilders, you see the guys at the gym that are taking sauce and not doing it right. They look like giant water balloons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I call them Stay Puffs. Okay, and you can see them at the gym. They do a set, they pose in the mirror. Okay,
That drives me nuts.
they're walking around all puffy, but there's no density to the muscle. Okay, and you look at the bodybuilders and the powerlifters, these guys are using this stuff to make their training more intense, to push harder, to lift heavier. Okay, it's not what I would do.
Right.
Okay, because like I'm a health nut. But I understand the drive. I don't understand the guy who's just like popping the sauce for no apparent reason.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I go to the gym a lot, and that drives me nuts, man. Like, we get it, you're big, move on. Like, finish your set, move on.
Well, you know what's kind of funny because I always get that. I do a lot of weird exercises. Like I do all my dumbbell bench presses and incline presses. I do them on a Swiss ball with dumbbells. So now I happen to have gotten like really strong, and let's say I'm doing 120-pound dumbbells for 8 to 12 reps. Okay, I'm talking all these guys are standing there with their mouth open staring. Okay, and then they're doing their exercise and flexing in the mirror. And I was talking to my son one time. Get a kick out of them. They spend more fucking time flexing than they do lifting. They'll stare at you when you lift because you're doing something they can't.
Mm-hmm.
But do they ask you questions and try to imitate what you're doing? No, they just keep injecting shit and doing stupid exercises. Sorry, I got on a gym tangent. I do that every once in a while.
Oh no, it's but you see that unfortunately you see that in jiu-jitsu as well. Like,
oh yeah.
It's like it's not that serious. Now, going back to what you were saying, how people be, they're so like stern, and they're like, mad at the world, ready to get on the mats. I'm like, dude, we're competing for like a $10 medal, dude. Calm down, chill.
I was trying to tell somebody that I felt in his match recently, he probably should have tapped. He didn't get hurt. He got tweaked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it was down the stretch. I realized he was trying to go the distance, but I'm like, dude, you should have tapped. Your arm almost got broken. And he goes, yeah, but I didn't tap. Okay, but if your arm was broken, yeah, but I didn't tap. I took a deep breath and I said, do me a favor, go watch a lot of high-level competitions. When a good guy realizes he's caught, now I know when I'm caught.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm wrong and I make a mistake and pay for it. Or sometimes I get caught too fast to even react. Okay. Mm-hmm. But when a guy's got your arm and shoulder isolated, when he's got your hip isolated, you're just bailing the water and you're not getting out unless he does something horrendously stupid.
Right. Right.
You got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we're talking even in professional grappling. We're not talking real money.
Right.
Even at the higher level, these guys aren't making the money that, there's maybe one or two guys making decent money. The rest of them aren't.
Yeah. I mean, the faster a lot of people realize that, man, the faster I think this sport would be a lot more safer, because you go in there snatching heel hooks or, reaping knees and stuff like that just to say you won for a highlight reel is not worth it.
Yeah, but it also, between you and I, it also goes both ways, because how do I phrase this? I had a match, God, it had to be 6 years ago in Vegas. It was a good match. It was in the absolute division. The guy was about 20 pounds lighter than me. Nice guy. He was a black belt too. I dropped back for a heel hook. Okay, and it was at I forget what organization, but it was a Brazilian ref. But the organization allowed reaping and no gi and heel hooks. So I dropped back for the heel hook. Now I got something I do called a staple, where I basically have you stapled down, and you're really not getting out unless I let you out, because my leg is entangled with yours.
Mhm.
Okay, so the ref says no reap. I said, look at the sign. They had a big life-size sign with all the rules. He goes over, he comes back. Now this guy's still trying to pull his leg free. Okay. Ref says, heel hook, okay. Okay, so I start to put the heel hook on. Now I do a heel hook with one hand, and I've got my hand on his knee. So as I'm starting to apply a little pressure, I'm feeling the knee. I look at him, I go, you gonna tap? He goes, no. Put a little bit more. You gonna tap? No. I shrug my shoulders and twist it a little more, pop. Asked him afterwards why he didn't tap. Well, I don't do a lot of no gi, and I'm not that familiar with leg locks. And I tried to tell him, dude, I asked you 3 times, are you going to tap?
What does that have to do with tapping? If
He
you're in
didn't
pain, like
realize,
if you're,
but he didn't.
yeah,
I guess he felt the stress in his knee, but because there was no instant pain, and because I
you
did
have
it gradually, he didn't panic.
instant pain in a knee or elbow is a bad sign.
Well, yeah, I know. I've been caught enough. My knees are bad. I know. I feel it in my knee. Okay, I'm screaming, tap.
Yep. Look,
But see,
I
some
don't
people,
play
they just
that.
don't think.
Yeah, I don't play that. If we're rolling and you lock it up, you
And
got
listen,
it.
I always tell people, the difference between a white belt and a black belt is several million taps. Okay, so when you look at it that way, I've tapped several million times. One more is not going to make a big difference.
Nah, it's not.
Okay, so it's kind of like you got a choice of limb. Okay, because I can tell you also, you think it's bad now when you hurt something? Wait 20 years.
Uh,
It's not like it gets better.
Wait till the weather starts affecting your body.
Like, I get out of bed some mornings and it's horrific.
Oh God, yes, dude. I'm like, I'm
Snap,
only
crackle,
36. I should
pop,
not
and
be feeling like this, man.
oh, like I always joke around. I know it's a horrible selling point, but welcome to jiu-jitsu. Your body will never forgive you.
Yeah. That's like this picture I saw of it was a meme, and it was an older guy, and it was like, jiu-jitsu was the best decision of my life, aged 22.
Yeah.
The dude was like 76 in the picture.
Nah, it's like I'll be honest with you. Like I've got a lot of bumps. I've got a lot of leftover damage from a lifetime of using my body basically as a battering ram. But I wouldn't change a thing.
Not at all.
The experiences outweigh it all, and it's kind of like, hey, it's, and if anything, I'm 61 and I'm still doing it. It's evidence that you can do it long term.
Yeah, that's proof right there.
Right? Like, I have people all the time tell me like, oh, I can't believe you're a vegan. Vegans can't be healthy. Dude, I'm a lifelong vegan. So yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Either I'm an outlier or it's humanly possible.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's something's being done right.
But the idea is it's like anything else. Like if you analyze something, realize how to get there successfully. And like I'm a big one on precision modeling. If you find somebody who's successful, follow his keys to success because he's already made his mistakes. I've done that. I've done that so many times in different endeavors in life. If I want to learn to do something, I want to learn from a guy who's been doing it for a while and has eliminated all the success failure ratios. And I'm going to listen to him. It's not like I had a guy in Vegas. It's so funny because he's getting ready for a fight. I walk in the gym and he's sparring. And like, about a week earlier, he was looking good. He's looking like warmed over dog shit. Okay, now this kid is a jacked up specimen of an athlete. Okay, just looks great, fast, strong, explosive, got all the tools. Okay. So finally I look at him, and I'll leave his name out of it because I know he's embarrassed by the moment. But I look at him and I go, what the fuck is going on? You look like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not your warm, fuzzy type of coach. Okay. It's like, you look like shit. And then he goes, yeah. I switched my diet and I just have no energy. Okay, how do you switch your diet? Because I'm a big believer, don't switch your diet before a fight.
Yeah.
Do it in between fights.
So dumb.
Not 6 weeks before the fight. Okay, so he switches his diet up and he goes vegan. Okay, so I look at him and I go, oh, that's interesting. And I go, what are you eating? Well, like every night I have a salad with a full head of lettuce, 2 cucumbers, 4 carrots, blah, 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 and he just lists all the vegetables he puts on. I look at him and I go, you do realize that's not being vegan? And he kind of looks at me funny. They're vegetables. Okay, now I will tell you, he's also not the sharpest tool in the shed. So at least he did realize all the things he was eating were vegetables. Because I've had guys ask me, I said, no carbohydrates when you're cutting weight. Coach, what's a carbohydrate? Okay, so in other words, sometimes it's kind of you gotta realize what you're dealing with. And then so he was correct that they were all vegetables. And I go, no, that's a concentration camp. That's a recipe for a slow and painful death. That's not being a vegan. And like I looked at him and I go, dude, you do know I'm a vegan, right? He goes, yeah, coach. Do you think I'm in shape? Oh, you're in sick shape, coach. Okay. Why wouldn't you ask me?
Yes.
And it drove me nuts because most people always ask me, they hear I'm a vegan. Should I go vegan? No. Why not? It's expensive. It's hard to do. And let me ask you a question. Do you like meat? If you like meat, eat fucking meat. Okay. If you like chicken, eat chicken. If I like meat,
right.
I'd go kill a cow myself and eat it. Okay. I don't like meat. People always ask me, have you ever had that like this or that? No. I don't eat real meat. I sure shit ain't eating fake meat.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, all right, Phil, man. We asked everybody that comes on the show, kind of became the staple of Talk Your Jits podcast. Past or present, your top 3 people you'll love to get a chance to roll with.
Okay. Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan, of course. And Roger Gracie.
Yeah. That old style smash. Oh.
Well, it's also, how do I phrase it? Like I've also had the privilege to roll with a lot of really good guys over the years. So it's kind of like there are people I haven't rolled with that it's kind of like, how do okay, now don't get, please, I want to preface that with something. Don't automatically look at this and say, Phil said he could beat Gordon Ryan. No, Phil did not say that. Phil definitely did not say that. Phil would learn how fast Gordon Ryan would submit him. Phil is not saying that he would beat Gordon Ryan. I just want to make that perfectly clear. But I'm one of those guys that I would love nothing more because I love to see the elite levels of things. Okay. I'd like to have to cover Michael Jordan, like play heads up against Michael Jordan in a 5-on-5 game. Okay. Because having the other 4 guys there competing would make him actually play. Going 1-on-1 with me wouldn't make him play. I would like to be down there in the pits with him as he hits that next level that they have, just to see what it's like as he blows by me and stuffs in my face.
Right.
Okay? And there's nothing I can do about it. Or have a race with Carl Lewis, but you would have to have Ben Johnson there too. Because if I was running with Carl Lewis, he wouldn't have to run fast enough.
Right.
Do it. Okay. What I would like to see is as I'm running my hardest and my heart's pumping out of my chest, as they put the afterburners on. What real human speed looks like. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a big one on that type of thing. In other words, it's kind of like I got a chance to play in pickup games a couple times back in New Jersey and New York with NBA players. And like I always try to tell people, you think so-and-so sucks. The last guy on the bench on an NBA team is better than anybody you played against.
Right.
Okay, no matter how much you say, it drives me nuts when somebody says, "Oh, this fighter sucks." Can you beat him? Okay. In other words, like people ask me all the time about a current fighter. I have a long history of fighting, and fighters tend to be very opinionated. Oh, do you think you could, in your prime, do you think you could beat so and so? Don't know. I'm not in my
Probably,
prime.
maybe. I don't know.
Don't want to talk about it. Okay,
Right.
it's all conjecture. Like I hate goat arguments. Who's the greatest of all time? And then guys start bringing up LeBron James sucks. Dude, what sport do you watch? You know anything about basketball? You don't suck. I've seen guys say Michael Jordan sucks. Okay, come on, what are you on crack? Okay,
Yeah.
in other words, you may hate Gordon Ryan, but you can't say he sucks.
Can't say he sucks.
Exactly. In other words, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, yeah, I'm not even about to I'm not even about to open that can because we'll be here for like another hour. But yeah, that whole who's the greatest, it's gonna leave it at that. It's everyone's entitled to their opinion, just
Exactly.
who they feel. But all right, Phil, unless you got any other questions for me, fire away. If not, let the people know where they can find you. If you got anything
My
coming up,
website
it's all
is
yours.
Lexington, Lexi. Lexington is as in the town in Virginia, BJJ.com. The name of my school is the Silent Fight Team, White Rhino BJJ, and we're located in Lexington. And basically we're an open format, real low key. If you're ever in the area, come by, check it out. The rolls are on me.
Awesome. Well, once I get to start traveling, man, I definitely will love to come and visit.
Welcome anytime.
Awesome.
Okay, listen, thanks for having me and have a great day.
You too, Phil. Well, that's
Okay,
the end
bye-bye.
of today's episode. I would love to thank Phil one more time for coming on the show and bless us with his jiu-jitsu knowledge. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please go and follow our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube page to stay updated on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits Podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live jiu-jitsu. Have a great day.
Have a good one.